Mark, welcome back to Buffalo Fireside Chats. How you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Good, good. What's new? And by the way, congratulations, 14-year high on the share price. I'm a shareholder, and congratulations on that.
I wish I had control over that, but all I can do is create revenue.
Right on. All right, now I do want to just keep things going here and talk and get right to the nitty gritty and talk a little bit about what you guys have recently accomplished with India. All right, there's a lot going on with India. Wrong slide there, of course. Go figure. And I want to pull this up just to show everybody. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to let you have at it. All right, because I don't even know if I have the slide here. Way to start the show. Do diligence my ass. Oh my God. See what happens when you over prepare? I have a ton of slides here today, guys, by the way. Ton of slides and tons to get through. So you have been in talks with India, essentially. And guys, look at the most recent PR. It's excellent. It's loaded with information. Tell us about it and tell us how it's going.
Well, it's going well, and what we're doing now is trying to see how we can massage something together. Um, People don't realize, and maybe they do. Maybe that's why they own the stock. There's a worldwide hunger and worldwide starvation, and it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. And when you look at Brazil, they're holding back on any shipments of soy. And you look at China, they're the second largest next to Brazil in the amount of cattle that they have, and they're just importing but not exporting. And when you look at China, China is excuse me, I didn't mean to say China. India is not shipping any more rice, and period. So they're using it internally for their cattle. So the group that we're talking to, they have access to what they tell me 65 sugar mills, and I thought it was 30. And they also have milk cows, about 500,000 of them. So what they're looking to do is to feed these cows because there's not a lot of feed. There's not a lot of grain. I mean, Ukraine is not making. They're the 40% of the grain is manufactured or grown in the Ukraine. I don't see anybody growing grain in Ukraine. They're in the army. So so the fit is good. Um, they're shipping over some sample material for us because it's like I tell every customer, you have no value of what our product does until you use it. And it doesn't take long, just takes a couple of days, and you'll start seeing these changes. And so they're sending it over so we can make product with their Bagas and then ship it back to them. It'll only take me about an hour to process it, but it's a key thing that they need to understand the value. And when you're dealing with anybody in a negotiation in anything, customer or somebody that you'd like to build a plant in their country, they need to understand what the value is, and
I mean,
so they
when you're talking about 65 sugar mills and 50,000 cattle, now I don't know if anybody could do the math.
500,000
Or I'm
cattle.
sorry, 500,000 cattle. Numerically speaking, and from a profit perspective, I got to ask you, what is the profit margin on if you have that contract, and if, like you said, it was the sugar mill output's going to be more than double than what you expected. Like the profit margins you explained last time are huge. So
Mhm.
so what are we looking at numbers wise, give or take? If we, if things go forward as we're hoping is going to happen.
I can't really tell you because we don't really know. They wanted to come over and see our footprint. I showed them. I'm not showing them what is in Nutramastic. I never will. That's a key ingredient in what we make. The technology that's in our machine, they're not going to know that either.
Hmm.
Uh, so what is the profit going to be? It's going to depend on sell prices. It's going to depend on what part of the chain of revenue that we get involved in.
Hmm.
And I want to make sure our shareholders that we make a lot of money on this. And so there's just all that conversation that has to be done. It's not going to happen overnight. And but what I like about it is they have the contacts. It's not
Mhm.
just talking about it; they have the contacts. So if you have some of the raw material, like bagasse, and you're producing, well, let's say you're producing like we do here. Our plant, our footprint has the ability to produce $135 million worth of product.
Hmm.
And that's at $150 a bale. So ultimately, what can we create over there? Don't know yet. And like any deal, it could work until it doesn't work. But
Okay, and real quick, because I want to keep things moving. That's a great answer, and thank you for that. A cost per head of cattle. You talked about this last time. Give us the number of the reduction that you've seen here in the United States.
um, many customers are saying they spend $350 a head per day. And when you go to our product without hay, and
Mm.
that's one of the things I keep telling people, take the line items out. You don't need hay. I've got pictures I'll be putting on Twitter tomorrow of a small ranch that hasn't used hay for a year.
Hmm.
Cattle look really good. So if you don't use hay, you don't use anything else but 80% SGP plus and 20% crude protein. That typically your ranch will be down to 45 cents.
Wow,
Big,
that's
what
that's
businessman
insane.
doesn't,
That's
what
great.
businessman doesn't understand that? So
Now,
it,
I know that you had a container of Bagas that came from India, and so you guys are getting your testing underway, and it was imported to Napoleonville, correct, for testing?
yeah, but and it hasn't gotten to us yet. So
Okay,
we're
when are you anticipating that you're going to receive that shipment?
about 23 days,
23 days.
to be
All right.
specific. It nothing moves fast in a container or on the ocean. It's not. We're not going to be using their bagasse in our plant because if you look around us in Louisiana, we've got mountains. I met with the head of agriculture, and that's what he counted. He says, "We don't have hills. We have mountains," and he's right. There's just and they're growing rapidly, and with the lack of rain, there's more bagasse. So
Okay. I have a couple of questions from the audience, and
mhm.
here we go from Jess in LA. Last PR stated Mark had a new sales team for the AG Expo. Can he elaborate yet? Can you elaborate on that yet?
Yeah, it. One thing I like about these guys is that they are in the cattle industry. There's about 9 of them, give or take. Some are full time, some are part time. What they're going to do is they're going to go. They're in every show in the country up till about June, and they're going to do their first show in West Monroe, and that'll be with cattlemen. It's the Louisiana cattlemen, and if you look at the map of the drought that is happening in Louisiana. Whoever thought Louisiana would have grass fires?
Hmm.
Just we're all swamp, but there's grass fires. I got one of my lakes that is almost down to dry, and yeah, that's I never would have thought that. But as we talked before, disaster brings change, and change isn't doesn't happen by the people that are in the habit of doing things. It comes by somebody that's on the outside like me. I come in and say, why are you doing it that way? And why can't you do it this way? And the bottom line is that now we're starting to see a lot of people far and close that are saying, you know what? I'm getting no help from anybody. And
Hmm.
I can get rid of hay because look at the price of hay. It's incredibly high. And the only guys that can get it are the big guys. And I don't know how anybody makes a profit at doing it.
All right, we have another question from the audience. Basically, what would the profit on feeding 1,000 cattle in the U.S. per month be? Cattle aren't always hungry. So to feed it, let's say for a month, what would it be for about 1,000?
Well, I guess the best way to say it, it depends on the ranch, and I'm not trying to dodge a question, but
Yeah,
I guess the best way to say it is take 350 a head and bring it down to 45 cents and multiply by 1,000 on both counts.
got it. Got it. Right on. Okay. Tell us a little bit about the sales team you have engaged. What's the monthly capacity for the facility?
For our facility, you're looking at um, I always run any plant I've ever had. I always run the sweet spot is 85%. So I figure this plant can produce about 136 million in sales.
Hmm.
This footprint. Um, I think I can increase that by a few things that I want to do that we can talk at a later date. But
Mhm.
I can increase the efficiencies with a couple of things that I'd like to do. So the bottom line is that let's say 135, and people have to remember that our product is a commodity. So as we become more successful at what we're doing, the price of it is going to go up. And so it might be at 150 a ton now, but it could be at 200 a ton. And if I'm looking at the price of hay and alfalfa that is just going through the roof, why would I stay down in the cellar?
Hmm.
So the key for me is to show people that this product does what I said it would do. And this footprint will produce, so if I'm at 135 million at 150 a ton, what am I at 200? What am I
Hmm.
at 250? It's huge. And now I can go and take that same footprint and put it anywhere where there's bagasse. So if I want to
Hmm.
go to Brazil and help that Amazon situation that they have down there, where they're
Hmm.
knocking down the Amazon forest, trying to get more grazing grass, there's a big sugar mill down there. There's sugar mills all throughout the South, and then when you go over to India, there's lots of sugar mills. They don't produce what we produce here in volume, but it is incredibly prosperous to change over a product that is a renewable
Hmm.
stuff that landfills. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't afford to take it to a landfill. It was just too expensive.
And now
And
they have somewhere to take it and process it and reuse it into into their farm or into the farms in the area, especially with those refineries that are close to cattle ranchers. I mean that's going to prove very effective. I really think. A
yeah,
lot we were talking about last time. A lot of the concern was that there haven't been university studies or whatever, and I know that we didn't really get an update last time. So could you actually? Um, is there any university study? People like to see those university studies, especially with things like this. How's that looking?
it's looking very good. I can't tell you who, but we'll be connecting with a very major university soon. And
That's
those,
excellent.
yeah, like I told one of the politicians in Louisiana that if we had to do all the tests are out there collectively, and we
Mm,
could group them together and come up with a lot of validation, which we've done. But if I had to do a complete test with weight gains, you're talking $1 million.
mhm.
Well, but this industry can't wait. It needs help now.
It really does, and it's sort of funny. I just want to show a funny comment here, but he has a point. What's going to happen when the government makes meat illegal and makes us all start eating bugs? But there is that nervousness, and you see it. You see it happening in Ireland. You see it happening across the world, where they're starting to diminish their cattle supply. It's just a fact, and so a lot of people are concerned that they want you eating 3 shakes a day. They want you eating leaves. They want you eating a vegetarian diet. They want to steer people away from meat. And actually, there's a lot of scientific data and proof and studies that have been done that that the healthier meat that you have, it's not and oftentimes a meat-based diet is not bad for you. As a matter of fact, sometimes for some people, it's actually healthier. So I found that very fascinating. I did meat-based for 2 months, and actually I felt great on it. I should probably go back to it, because you know what? When I introduced carbs and all that other junk, it's just like, oh my gosh. But like, I like the meat-based diet. I know we're not going to talk about the meat-based diet, but it seems like there is an attack on the meat industry. But I'm going to leave my opinion out of it. I just wanted to respond to Mr. Paw, and I did want to get another comment in from Pat. In a PR today, Ifus listed additional revenue sources in oil industry and other industries. Can he expand on other revenue sources?
Yeah, that's what's really neat about this product line. Uh, Nutramastic goes into everything we make. So I've been able to, with this manufacturing facility, we've been able to come up with Supreme AG. It's an oil absorbent. What does it do? It absorbs oil. And so if you throw it in a swamp or on water or anywhere, it absorbs the oil because that's what Bagas does. It absorbs the oil, it breaks it down, it doesn't have
Mm.
to compost. And it actually, if you put it in water, it'll float to the bottom and get rid of it. It composts in 90 days. And then we've got another product line that is really comes from the 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 plant and its ability to bag things. So when things get bad with hurricanes and floods and so forth, we can switch that one part of the facility over
Hmm.
to making super sacks of sand. And you
Wow.
get good prices for that. When things are tough, you probably get about $185 a bag. And so it exceeds what you can get in the SGP Plus. The other one we have, which is kind of our scientist developed it, and he's got a very experimental garden at his property, and he lives close to the plant. And what we found is that he was always telling me that if you put bagasse as a mulch, it's going to kill the plant, it's going to smother it, and so on and so forth. So I said, I don't think you're right. So we started using SGP Plus, and the plants are growing triple the size. And
Wow,
it
that's unbelievable.
roses, his vegetables, his all of his plants, and it's not just one; it's all of them. So we did testing, and what we realized is that SGP Plus changes the whole dynamic of a mulch. So, for instance, when you like, I'll be talking to one guy tomorrow that's got a manure problem. The best mulch would be a mixture of manure and SGP.
Hmm.
Uh, that would get rid of a lot of things like smell,
Mhm.
and it will biodegrade it down to so you can put it back in the property on the crops. So it's these three product lines are going to have to take sales teams that
Mhm.
focus on that only. When you're over in the people in India tell me they have a very large business in cattle manure. So if we're looking at getting more revenue sources, it's even over there. And they were very excited about that, and so was I. The other thing is that I'm hoping by the end of December I can start taking pre-orders for the Intact Nutrition
Mhm.
line, and that's a phenomenal line that that is, I think, gonna take off, highly profitable. Um,
Hmm.
it is it'll
I
take
did
off.
inquire about that last time. I remember that.
Yeah, yeah. It's I've got everything set, and all I have to do is um, is put it in stock, and I'll probably take pre-orders. We won't take anybody's money until we can ship it. So
I definitely want to try that product. So,
oh,
um, if
it'll be something like you've never had.
good,
And
and if you could update it, update us, keep us updated, and keep in contact with me because I want to be one of the first to know when that does become available. I do have a
oh,
couple questions here that I want to keep things going. So I did want to Dean's comment here. Is this a licensing opportunity with companies like Cargill?
you know, I don't want anybody to take our product and put it on the shelf and shove it in the closet. If I knew somebody would take it and add momentum to it, I would say, yeah, I would think of that. But that isn't what that, and I'm not targeting Cargill and all, but that's what big companies do. And you
Mhm.
got to look at their products that they sell. Why would they want to sell less feed? Because that's what's going to happen.
Well,
You don't need as much feed.
and a lot of times they don't like a solution to the problem. They like the problem because it's very profitable. Rob
Yep.
Stolarchuk, good to see you, Rob. Is there any analysis of the nutrition of the beef or milk from cattle feed with bagasse? Can you compare it to grass fed or grain fed or hay fed? So I think that is sort of a mixed question because we're removing the hay. So maybe you understand this question a little bit better than I do.
Well, it is a good question. And it's funny, as we've been talking about India, over there they look at milk fat.
Hmm.
Over here we look at volume. Now, what do you find with the bags of milk? Well, they're twice as big, and there's some scientific reasons for that. The mama cow's healthier, and we even find that they can probably produce maybe two more progeny than they could before. That's all profit. And so, with the bag of milk being bigger, and the first 90 days that the The milk is creamier, better for the cow. I mean, where does any human or cattle, they get their immune system from the mama cow? And so yeah, we've seen big differences in that.
And
And
you're probably are you gonna be able to like solidify it more once we get that study done?
yeah, that we will. But
Okay.
put it this way: if you're a businessman, and I tell you what, you don't have to add one more asset. So if you got one
Hmm.
cow, you don't have to any more asset, and I can double your production, and you can see
Wow.
it in a week.
It's
Which
unbelievable. You know, the more I learn about this, the more excited I get, because I think it's going to impact our environment, impact the quality of meat that we have. I do want to keep things going. What is the feedback from that first feedlot that you supplied? Actually, we had the guest on the show last time. For all the new viewers here, what's the feedback?
well, the feedback is still they're still collecting data, but I can tell you they're trying to do it very quickly. Why? Because of all the stuff we've been talking about
Yeah.
with the lack of feed, the lack of hay, and so forth. Um, they they are even looking at how do we get it shipped here? Can you produce this much every week? So I think it's going well. They just haven't. They don't share that kind of stuff. Ranches and dairies are very closed mouthed, and any technology that they get, they really don't share it too much with each other. But they will
Mhm.
tell somebody where they get product, but not the results. I mean, you look at a dairy. The dairies in the United States measure everything,
Wow.
and I'm glad they do. So I hope
Okay.
that question.
All right, good, good. Is there any resistance to the understanding of what SGP Plus represents? Um, what do you think people fully understand what you're able to offer?
No, I don't.
I had a
And
feeling you were going to say that.
yeah, I really don't. It's probably everybody involved. It's our toughest job because the uh, the product performs. But that's why a lot of times I'll have a guy come by and I'll say, "I'll tell you what, I'll give you a super sack, and you
Hmm.
do it the way I told you, and you tell me within the first week you don't have a change." And it's almost like if the USDA doesn't say that this is what we want you to do, then they look at these big bug eyes like your kid does when you tell them they can't do something. And but finally, they end up doing it because it's when you have disaster, it brings change. And so all I do is I stand there and say, well, what about me? What about me? If you use just Bagas by itself, they won't eat it. But if you use SGP with our technology in it, they'll eat it every time. So I,
Wow,
you know, that
good.
that that's the world we live in.
I mean, it's good because it's giving you an opportunity. You know what I mean? It's giving you an opportunity to share something that a lot of people we're creatures of habit. We want the same thing all the time. We just want the same old. But the same old is more costly, and especially when it comes to regulation, inflation, all these other like supply chain issues that we're talking about. Um,
Correct.
I have a couple more questions for you. And by the way, thanks for coming on. It's great to see you again, man. Very, very
Okay.
good to see you.
Anytime,
Um,
anytime I can talk about SGP plus.
Well, you know what? You're one of my favorite guests because I think this whole topic is just fascinating. So could you talk about the dynamics of the footprint for SGP plus 2.0 worldwide where Bagas is grown?
Well, if I take an article that was written by an Indian reporter, and it was just in the last 2 weeks, you could probably Google it, but he said that if somebody could figure out how to unlock the lignin that is
Mm.
in bagasse, and he used those terms, it's a $460.9 billion market. Well, I'm going to tell you, we did it. We already did that. We unlocked lignin, and that's why when you use our product, you have no smell. If you had, when cows eat grass, you have loose stools and you have smell. But if it gets absorbed in the small intestine, then you have no smell. So we have no smell.
Hmm.
We have no urine smell. And in many cases, like at the ranch in Jefferson, Texas, we have no flies.
Hmm.
Do you know how big that is? When the USDA guy came out to visit the ranch, that's the first thing he noticed, how the cows are sitting around relaxed. If you're ever around cows and flies, you can't leave the car door open, man. They're all over the place. There's millions of them, and they spread disease. So that is, I hope I answered your question.
You absolutely did. 460.9 billion is
Yeah,
what you said.
look at his article. Somebody
Wow.
could unlock it, and we have
Yeah.
done.
And if you could send me that article, I just email it to me. Have Rhonda email it to me. I'd love to take a look at that. Definitely,
I,
it's sure to be a good read. Um,
I promise I will.
yes, that'd be great. Lastly, we're approaching New Year's. We're all going to have our resolutions. What are your goals for 2024?
My goals for 2024 is to get those lines that we talked about activated and get people that can emulate what I do. Because if I try to be the only guy, I can tell you that's like a Coke bottle, man. It's just you can only do so much. I remember when we first started out, you had the intact line, and I would talk to 10 people, and I'd have half-hour
Hmm.
conversations or hour conversations. And what did I get for that? 31.95 a bottle for 10 hours. So the best thing to do is create video like the one we have on our website. Fantastic. For Pixel to do that for nothing, that's pretty cool. And it's a
The
great
video is
video.
excellent, by the way. The video is great, guys. Shout out to Sam from pixelworld.tv. There's Sam. I got it right. Not
Yeah,
pixeltv.world, like I kept saying in the last show, but shout out to you, Sam. Sam's a great guy, by the way. It's a great friend.
he did a great job, and I've talked to him, and I'm very thankful. But when I go to our website is set up basically for me to go to a customer and say that calls or I see, take a look at the video, then give me a call. And if you want to look deeper, look at the SGP Plus. We got a 34-page report. And if you want to look at what mastic has done over the centuries, mastic goes way back. So if you start looking at all the stuff that makes up our product line, it's an ancient formula. I just made it supercharged, and it's so I'm trying to do things uh, that that expand what I do, and the sales staff is a good thing. Rhonda has been a lot of help. The ranch that we have has been a tremendous help, and if we go over to India, I'm sure that one of our staff is actually going to run the plant.
Excellent. 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 Guys, we have a big crowd tonight. And by the way, thank you for every single one of you for tuning in. If you haven't checked out ticker IFUS Impact Fusion International, please do so. Like I said, congratulations on reaching your 14-year highs. Proud shareholder here. Mark, thanks for coming on the show. I'm rooting for you. Big time.
That's an honor. That's an honor.
Seriously. All right. Thanks again. And hey, get this guy out of here. Get him out of here.